Hi guys, Jason Reese here, Focus Creative Studio. Sorry I'm running a little bit late tonight. I had to get a few things switched around from how Kevin and I normally do our live stream. And I'll kick things off real quick and just give everybody an update. What I'm going to go through tonight is what I had planned to go through with Kevin on Thursday. Kevin and I just had some technical difficulties with his computer running through an update, and we weren't quite sure exactly how that affected things on his end. So I'm going to go ahead and run this one live, and then Kevin and I will catch up on another live stream and hammer through something else for both the piping runs and industry related stuff. So if you're with me tonight, go ahead and jump in, leave a comment in chat, say hello, let me know that should be able to hear a little bit of music in the background behind my voice. Let me know if you can hear me and everything's good. I'll switch the cameras here in just a second. I'll be able to see the stream chat. And for those that maybe don't stream, that just jump in, I don't monitor this through YouTube. I run it through a program called OBS Studio, so I see everything on my screen. While Kevin's online, he runs and looks everything through YouTube. So just a little bit different in how I'm learning how to do the live stream stuff. But yeah, if you're here, say hello. Let me know what industry you model, what scale you model. If you got any questions, go ahead and dump those in the chat, and I'll try and get to questions as they pop up, and go back and forth between any questions and the modeling stuff I'm working on. So I'm going to go ahead and switch screens. All right, so this is the kit that I've been working on for 5-6 weeks now, and it's the learning kit from Woodland Scenics. And what I'm doing is basically putting together a 3D printed add-on package. And so this one's been going through, the full stage. It's built right out of the box in the sense it's just the walls, but now I've gone through. You can see the difference. This is just one wall with mortar joints in, and then this is kind of the final weathering stage. I've just started wrapping up some of the bottom grunge here. The top parapet is a custom, it's just scratch built out of styrene, glued together and then scored with a blade so that I can get some of that detail in those joints and that. And then those, you'll see those joints line up with where my streaks are going to run down my brick. Just a typical pattern that you'll see with masonry buildings. And then I've got the 3D custom insert parts. This wall hasn't been painted. There's a little bit of a test overlay on my brickwork that allows me to start working through the oil paint rendering that gets me more to this, where I get that tonal shift on the bricks. And granted, this is a long process that I know a lot of people are not going to be interested. Hey Bartman, hey Barry, great to have you guys. Thanks for joining me tonight. So what I normally do is I'll run through with a test piece and just pick some of those shading tonal shade variances up, so that when I get into the oil paints on the last 3 sides, I've already generated a pattern that allows me to just duplicate everything I've already done on the front without having to try and do everything at one time, because it's a time-consuming process. I think the front ran probably a little over an hour to get this full. This is just the brick mortar and the shading stuff. So I did the decals in a previous episode. Had some folks complaining that they could never get decals to set inside brick, and so I went through that and showed the 5-6 times that I went and put the microset stuff on there to see that if you're patient, you can get them to set in. And then I run my mortar right on top of that decal. So it does give it kind of a painted effect. Now this honestly would have been way easier to just paint these stripes, but I wanted to prove that we could do decals and achieve the same result, because a lot more detailed information can be revealed with a decal than paint sometimes. But what I'll go through tonight is setting how I've got the pipe supports. I've got the racks already set on the roof. I'll show how my fire line, water line, steam line run through and over the building. These are the custom inserts that I've designed. I 3D print. They pop right in from the back. So I've got a whole series for now the rectangle tops and the full arch top series. And granted, this is all HO scale. I've not dabbled a whole lot in the N scale stuff. So that's next on my plate, but honestly, it's probably a couple months down the road. My plate's just full with the chemical stuff that I've been working on. And then the last side is I just changed how I did my windows because I wasn't happy with how the clear acetate was sitting behind them. There's too much of a gap. So those windows are all getting rerun, and so there'll be 2 windows on this side that are custom 3D printed, and then 1 window on the front. And then with those that are grabbing the kit, you're gonna get the full learning kit. I'm not taking anything out of the bag. I'm just literally gonna pass that kit on at the cost that I can get it from Woodland Scenics, and then I'm gonna include all my 3D printed parts to go with it. So you'll have that standard door. Got it. So that standard door, and I'm just gonna use it for the kit. And I'm gonna go through. I'll paint this. I'm gonna paint a big number on it. That's gonna be a separate tutorial. I'm gonna go through how I do airbrushed numbers with just masking those off. And then I'll do some hairspray technique and some chipping on that, so it has kind of that worn look to it. So that one will be in the kit, and then I think there's the standard door. I don't like these things. This is what drove me to designing the custom 3D inserts. You can see the bottom of that door does not line up with the brick, so you have to cut this off to get it to sit flush. And then this will all sit on top of a custom 3D printed piece that is all done on my FDM machine, not the resin printers. That's not in the kit because everybody does their basing differently, but that's really what's driving this, is how can we take this cookie cutter kit and add some 3D components to it to bring it to life. So you'll get all the inserts minus the overhead door and the front door. You're going to get some steel plates. You're going to get a mix of saddles so that you can build your own pipe rack similar to what I've done here. It's just styrene shapes, and I've got a whole bunch of these parts that are already printed. Those will go in the kit, so you'll get all that. Basically, you're going to get everything that allows you to build it pretty close to this. The only thing that's not going to be in there, Barry, since I've got you, I'm not throwing this piece on there. That's just something I'm working on for some testing, because I'm going to do some rusting on that. And then I've got these really fine, I don't know if I can pick it up, but you can see that little roof gutter, that roof drain. Those things I don't quite have honed down where I'm comfortable sending them out the door yet, because that roof drain will collect the water there, and then I've got a lamb's tongue that's part of that 3D printed insert piece there. So that one's just not quite ready. It's so delicate that I'd have to throw a handful of them in there because they're just tough to get off the sprue. But Barry, I may go ahead and throw one in yours because I know you've been patiently waiting on me to get those Woodland Scenics kits. So I'll let you try it out, and then I'll show in the kit. I'll have instructions on how I've done everything, and obviously you can go back through the videos and see everything. But I'll throw a handful of these. I forget what they're called. They're plastic pieces for electrical, and then you just drill a hole, slide it in. That's in a previous video as well. But I'll have all that stuff together, and that's for the building. So anything outside the building won't be in the kit. But what I'm gonna work on tonight is I got 2 projects that we'll see how quick I can get through them. But one is the pneumatic tank, and this is basically just a buffer tank for the fire pump house, so that if the system were energized, the buffer tank allows the pipes to be pressurized water running through it without bursting pipes. So basically it's like an overflow buffer tank. So we'll run a few pipes on that tonight, and then I've got custom saddles, steel saddles that go with those. Those I actually already have those for sale because those apply to everything. And then this is one of the separation tanks that will go up on the main rack in front of the Coke tower. And so I'm just going to show how I set 1 or 2 of the fittings. I've got some pipe fittings that slide right over the top of other 3D printed fittings. And then I've got some 3D printed elbows that slide on there. And all this connects to standard evergreen styrene shapes. I've not done anything for Plastruct. I just started out with evergreen since that's primarily what I have. So with that, I'll go ahead and get some of these set on top of here, and we'll get rolling on some of these pipes. If you got questions, throw them up in the chat. I'm happy to dig through those. For those of you that a couple of you have been following Kevin and I stuff for a little bit. I'm a chemical industry model guy. This is actually all new to me in the last probably 6-8 months. And so I've got, let's see if I can get out of the way. I've got the Coke Tower is a standard 4-drum Coke Tower. That's been in the works. All the parts are completed for that. And now those are piping runs. I've got the primary pipe racks that I've begun to start running across the entire module. It's an 18-inch by 7-foot module. And that'll sit actually up above my desk here in front of me as I get working on that. So, but the refinery, it's starting with the Coke Towers because that was kind of one of the biggest pieces. It'll have 2 of the direct fired heaters. You got 1 per pair of the Coke drums. And then I have a separate direct fired heater. Grab that. Oops. I don't have it glued together. So I've got the separate direct fired heater that is going to feed other parts within the refinery. This is all 3D printed, and I've recently switched to printing the grating on those. And then in one of the other videos I showed, there's a 5-6 part piece that I dropped all over the floor behind me. But they're tabbed, top and bottom, male and female, and they basically just stack. So this circular direct fired heater is actually pretty applicable to just about anything you might be doing in a refinery. I'm not familiar enough with the steel industry yet to know what types of heaters and stuff might be used outside of the blast furnaces and that kind of stuff. That's one thing that I'm trying not to cross paths with Kevin and make sure that I'm not putting something out to market that he might already have or one of the other guys over there in the steel page might have. Those guys have that pretty well covered. The models are really nice. And so I'm just trying to stick to a lot of the refinery stuff. But what I'm finding out is some of these things do overlap. The big one right now is the stacks. I'm finding that there's not anybody out there doing the custom stacks. Oh, I do have one. So the custom stacks, this is an example of where I'm at with the 3D printed platforms. I've been working on these for a while to get them where I can just print them out and there's no assembly. So these just slide right into a 3/4 inch piece of PVC. So this is one of those things that I kind of politely told Kevin. I said, if the steel industry guys need these, I'm selling them. I mean, this is kind of one of the things I've really been working hard to get for 1/2 inch tubing, 3/4 inch tubing. I'll even jump up to some 1 inch stuff. But at this size, that's really as small as I can print and get good detail and have it read well. So that's why I haven't dipped down into the N scale stuff yet. But when I'm working on these types of assemblies in particular, in developing piping layouts, because I've done some piping stuff in the past, I tend to leave the primary connection to whatever the main model is loose. For a couple reasons. One, it allows me to make adjustments. Styrene's flexible, so even inside this, I can move and adjust it a little bit back and forth, so that when I set one piece to get rolling, I've got kind of a framework that's then going to hold everything square at that point. I kind of wait until I have everything laid out and done, because once you glue one, you're stuck with it at that point. And so I tend to work a lot in this modular piece aspect that allows things to stay disconnected as long as possible. The other reason is I can pull them off and set them aside, and now I can work on whatever weathering and anything I want to do on the roof. In this particular case, I'm starting to work on that drainage pattern towards the roof drain, just to simulate that the flat roof and styrene actually still slopes with how the patterns. I've started creating just a real quick light rust, so this isn't like the top won't be heavily weathered because the steel would be new in a repurposed building for these pipe racks to run over for the refinery. So each one of these will get just a little bit of that weathering, and then I'll gray this up just a little bit more, and then I've got a little bit more work to do on the parapet. So it's great to have your pipes and everything off in order to be able to do that, so that you're not trying to work around the pipes. Because once I set those pipes, as you guys know, you're kind of done at that point. It's hard to paint and mask around everything, but I'm getting close to that, and I'll have to mask off the full set of. Actually, what I'll probably do is set the fire line first, and then mask everything off, paint the fire line red. That way I can come back and add all the white and blue lines. Blue for water, white for everything in the refinery. Those are probably the only colors I'm going to use as I get plowing forward with that. So we'll work on some piping across the top. I'll make a connection down to the side here to this to show the fire line coming out of the building. And then I've got a 3-piece steam loop that I'm going to work through. I'm actually going to start with this so that I can glue it up and get it rolling. Because I've got a steam line on the outside edge, and that's for the refinery. So that steam line will run the full length of the module that I'm working on. And then the next line in will be a fuel line. I haven't quite mapped out all of those pieces. So I've got a primary steam line, then a primary fuel line, and then the next 3 lines are water, fire, and then we'll switch back over to refinery fuel related for those last 4 runs. So that's just giving me some flexibility as I start planning things down the road. So with that, I'm going to go ahead and roll one. These are a 3-piece kit, like I mentioned, that I've got. So it's a matter of just sanding these connection pieces a little bit, and then I'll flop them down. Can you guys hear the music? Somebody give me a thumbs up, because I don't have my headphones. I'm gonna put my headphones on. There, I hear music. I'm assuming you guys hear the same thing I'm hearing. All right. And then these are female on the short side, male on the big side. Slide these in. So I just drop them flat on my workbench here. That's the easiest way to do that. To 22-inch steam line. Which is 1/4-inch styrene tubing. Awesome, thanks Barry. Add on hitting my camera. I developed this particular steam loop design knowing I needed them for the refinery before I even realized that Kevin was making them. Mine are a little bit different style than what Kevin's got. And again, guys, I love Kevin's work. I just got done ordering some pumps from him. I don't make the pumps yet. I mean, I know I need a whole bunch of them for the refinery, but I've just gone ahead and ordered Kevin's pumps that he's got so that I can use those, because I'll have one of the pumps sitting outside that feeds into the pneumatic holding tank. So you can see this has the rings, so like a stainless steel segmented steam loop. Those are all modeled in. So let that sit to the side. I'm going to drill this other side, show you how. Scale here. Is anybody else here? I know Barry is. All right, a little loud. That's because I went to my headphones. Thank you. That's one setting I didn't grab. Thanks, guys. that's the difference between when I'm trying to work with Kevin and how we have that set up and me running. Should be good now. I'll go a little lower, a little lower. Looks like I had it just a touch lower. How about that? That should be good. All right. So on these, I've got, again, I try and work modular. So these pieces on the ends are 3D printed. I've intentionally left a hole in the ends of these. I'm still working on a better end for these with the bolts fittings. So right now I'm sending the kits out. They've got an open end, and I'll have a piece that we can slide in at some point for those that are grabbing them. I do have some of these. I'm just not happy with them quite yet. Those will come out in a different kit, but this is standard 3/4 inch PVC. So these come like this. Grab one, excuse me. It's not. These are all finished. The way I do these is I print a little bit differently than a lot of people because I've been doing this for a while, and I'm just finding better ways to hold the detail and make it easier for the modeler not to have to clean up and post-process a lot of supports. That's the one thing that Kevin and I ranted on a little bit. I think the live stream before last, a lot of people get in our models that don't do the cleanup. You end up with all these little bitty zits all over your model. So what I do is I actually develop a ring. Grab my tweezers here. So I develop a ring around the outside, and that ring drops 0.2 millimeters, and then I run a row of supports all the way around the outside of that. So when it comes off the plate, I snip those off, and then you'll get this. You'll have a little bitty ring on it. You just basically drop it on wet dry sandpaper on a flat surface, circular motion, and you can get a nice perfectly flat surface. Now the disadvantage is when you go to assemble these. There's no alignment pins or anything like that, but what I did is I just basically put styrene around the inside of the 3/4 inch tube, left it hanging a little bit, dropped these right on top, and just you have a little bit of work time with glue, and then I take a sanding stick. You can use sandpaper, and you just, it's not rocket science, smooth things out, you know, and you'll see with 3D printing, like with these, you can still see it. I wait till after I prime. I do have one that's primed, so you can see it a little bit here, the ridge lines. A coat of primer, and you can sand those off and smooth it out, and they turn out really well. So to me, it's a great resource for those of us, instead of going and buying all the commercially available tanks. I think I sell these, and I want to say, I don't know what the kit is, to be honest with you. I haven't looked at it for a while. I posted up maybe 2 months ago when I developed it. I'd be like $8, $10 for 4 of these, so you could do 2 tubes. I forget what it is. But then once you get that done, you prime, paint, do whatever you got to do. You're off to the races. So the key that I work through, though, is before you paint, you want to set where all your fittings are going to come out of, or you can do it after. But I like to do it when I have the white styrene, so that I can develop those mark lines, so that I line those with my saddles, because the saddles I'll take, and those saddles will run right up to the edge of where that 3D printed part is, and then I work it so that my pipe coming out can either go down and under, can go to the side. Just some coordination things that when you're working on tank related stuff, I prefer not to wing it. I like to get things rolling as close to their location as they need to be without me having to mess with stuff. So these are set 2 feet in from where that 3D printed part starts. So, I'll look that real quick. Hey Barry, while I'm thinking about it, is there a particular steel mill you're modeling? The reason I ask is because when I get to that, I'm building a steel mill. It's just, I'm in the early planning stages because I'm total novice when it comes to the steel mills. I'm basing mine on the CF&I, Colorado Fuel and Iron. And I've already got blast furnace plans, and I have a lot of plans I've already started developing the models for. I'm just curious if you developed or we're working on a specific model. I think Kevin does Sparrow's, his club might do Sparrow's Point. Maybe? I'm not sure. And then Bartman, are you a steel mill modeler or are you a refinery modeler? Drilling these out, and I'll show you what we're going to do here in a second. And then same at you, Townie 72. Are you steel mill or end scale steel mill? Do you model after a particular mill or are you freelance? I gotta learn from you guys, otherwise I'll continue to be in the dark on the steel mills. All right, this drill bit is the size, same size as the male ends. See this? On these little 90-degree elbows. Gotcha, Barry. Are you using jumped on the HAER, the HABS Architect Engineering site yet to do your research? Just curious. I love that site when I'm trying to find old historic buildings to do models of. Okay. So we know these are the sides. And again, I don't glue this together because I like to paint before I get there. So I'll be able to set these roughly there and have clearance. So we'll take these. I'm going to see if I find one that's not cleaned up. All right, so here's one. I don't sell these yet. I'm getting there. I want to make sure they're as close to perfect as I can get them. So these are little 90-degree elbows for 1/8" tubing. And right now I've got them printing pretty good, so I don't have to do any post-processing. I'll send them to you on basically the sprue. And when you get them, let me grab my tweezers real quick. They look like that. See those little tiny zits on there where the light supports hit? And then I take a round file. I think Kevin uses he calls it a riffler file. I just take a round file, knock those off. Right? It's literally light pass. If you sit down, you can knock, 30 of them out in 10 minutes and be done. And now you're set. They're all gone. You might have a little bit more cleanup, but chances are you're running piping and stuff. You're never going to see it. So let me adjust something here real quick. Pittsburgh. Hey, Townie, are you from Pittsburgh? Just curious. I got relatives up in Somerset, and I'm trying to get up there, although I don't know that it'll happen now, to Johnstown area. That's what got me started in researching the steel mills, was the Johnstown stuff. All right, so this is going to sit for a reference point. This will sit this way, so we'll run the first one back. Second one to roll down. And I'm actually not gonna fill the other side. I just wanted to show you guys how I was doing that. This one will roll straight down. So I got one that'll go straight back and around the building, and then this one will go down and see if I can probably just go ahead and that way it lines up and runs with that one. Quick sanding here. This is why these aren't for sale yet. I don't have the male-female perfect fit lined up like I do on the 1/4 inch piping. Those are... Barry, did you order some of the 1/4 inch? You're going to love them. Those things... Let's see, I'll pull them out here in a second. I got male and female fittings that slide end to end. You can do all kinds of elbow configurations, and that was the goal. I'll do the same thing with these, so that when you get them, you can do a male to female without there being a gap. This one I don't have quite perfect yet. So you guys that are all on the steel side, I tap Kevin's brain as much as I can, but that was one of the topics that we hit on, was the research and development. One of the things I'm struggling with is getting drawings for I think it's called the cast floor, which is part of the blast furnace. I've not found any anywhere for the CF&I plant, and so I didn't know if there's a repository somewhere that shows a typical cast floor of the 1920s, 1930s, 1940s, or if you guys just Google stuff online and get lucky and find things as you're going through setting all that stuff up. I'd love to know how you guys do that. Kevin shared the Google Patent site, I think, which I'd never seen. I'd never used it, and so that was an eye-opener to me, because I jumped on there and found some things that I'd been looking for the refinery that I just didn't realize that was a resource. So I'm curious where you guys go. I know there's lots of historical societies out there too. Alright, so I screwed up. I'm going to have to let this one sit. I didn't clean this elbow off before I glued. That's alright. It'll sand off real easy. I use super glue gel with 3D printed parts. The styrene glues don't work. Alright, so what that's going to do is that's going to go that way. Be just outside of where this pipe run's going to go. Bring my model back into the picture. This out. Let's see, how can I... Alright, so here's where we're going on the back side, to the bottom connection, because in the top connection will be another fire line out. Bottom is to the expansion tank. So I'll set that right. Set this one to the side while that glue dries. Grab another female connection. This one's cleaned up. That's how. Yeah, you know, Bartman, that's been my... I love the research, don't get me wrong, but what I'm finding, I think Kevin and I talked about a little bit on the stream, was that my resources for blueprints and drawings are just few and far between. And as an architect, I mean, for me to have a blueprint would be Oh, that would be amazing. That would make my day, because then I can pull the dimensions and everything I need right from that. So, Townie, so you're actually a steel guy, a worker. Oh, dude, that's cool. I commend those guys that do that. Whew, that's hard work. I have the cush job. And just to, I'll fill you guys in a little bit about me as some of this glue's drying. I'm an architect, been an architect since 1997. I've been running my own firm since 2004, and recently have opted to go. I've just taken my firm part-time. I'm done with the grind. I've got 3 kids. My oldest is in Colorado. He's a CrossFit personal trainer, and then he also is a manager one of the running company stores up in Boulder. My middle daughter is in her 3rd year of architecture school at the University of Kansas, which is where I went. And then my youngest just graduated. So I'm done with that grind of getting my kids through high school and out the door, and we help them a little bit with college, but they kind of know they're on their own a little bit. So I'm cutting back the architecture thing part-time so that I can actually do this and spend more time modeling and doing some of these things that I really, really enjoy doing. So that, I can pass along some of the knowledge that I've got on the 3D printed stuff and hopefully put some things in people's hands that are custom that they enjoy having on their layout. It's been fun so far. I've really had a blast. It's a lot more work than I thought it was going to be honest, but it's fun. All right, so one of the things that, see if I get an extra bracket. Close enough. So I developed standoff brackets. Again, as I roll through all this refinery stuff, if I get close enough, it'll pick up the nuts and bolts in this or not. There are actually bolts on these standoffs. These were developed actually specifically. I'm not going to get them because they're there. You can barely see them there. So these were developed for the distillation column originally as a standoff to hold the piping off the column. I was like, well, shoot, I'm going to use them everywhere. And so what I ended up doing was getting lucky with how all these pieces are coming together, and that most of the time they're fairly close. So like with this, what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to line this up like this. I'm going to plan for it to get attached there, and I'll end up developing another custom bracket. It works great on this side. Let me show you this. Because this is the side it was actually developed for. So this will sit down, so my fire line can come out, and that bracket is going to hold it in place, and then we'll make the turn down. We're going to work on that here next. We're going to make the turn down so that it hits the pipe rack. That's the next one I'm going to work on here after we get to some of this pneumatic. All right, so I'm eyeballing it here. We'll figure just enough for people to walk through. I'll put a scale on it just so I can say I did. 5 feet. We'll go just a little bit. All right. I don't have. I eyeball stuff. So basically, sliding that pipe right onto the fitting. I'm overhead. I kind of know where the center line of that is. Mark that. First blade goes through styrene pretty easy. You guys know the drill there. And I'll file them just to get the burrs off. I'll be honest, this is one of the things that drives me crazy. Some people just don't care, but people just cut stuff and then they glue it together. It's like not removing seams from a model. Drives me crazy. I like detail, so I get kind of crazy with it sometimes. All right, now I'm going to go ahead and glue this one on. Normally I'd probably wait and make sure I planned everything and hold that there for a second. But I can still get behind this, and I'll use post-it notes to mask things off when I go to paint this line, because this will get painted red. Actually, I don't know, to be honest with you. This one goes to the buffer tank, but it's for the fire line, so I'm not sure if these get painted red or not. I gotta do some research. That's the other thing I'm finding with the refinery stuff, is that there's a standard nomenclature for coating and color, but not every refinery uses it. Some refineries do their own color coding. So I'm trying to follow the standard, just like brown or orange for flue gases. Fuel lines are white, or some refineries do black. I want to do white so that you can see the stains. Alright, so remember, we're going to tilt this sideways. Try to stay on camera. I'm not worried about this back one. This is the one that's going to connect. So it's going to come over and drop down. So we're going to put 90 up on here. Yeah, I've noticed that too, Townie. I'm assuming that's based on when the furnaces are built. New technology. I'm trying to catch up on the chat here. That's the one thing I'll probably do with the refinery as well, with the direct fired heaters. There's so many different styles that, because I'm freelancing, quite frankly, selfishly, because I'm trying to showcase 3D printed stuff and sell models. This is what I'm trying to do with the other part-time gig of my world, is create some cool, fun stuff. And so I'll go through, and I looked at, it'd be super cool to do an old, like late 1800s refinery with the brick. I don't know if they're heaters, so I don't know if they're ovens, but like the brick ovens you would even see for some of the processes for steel mills. Is that Coke batteries, old Coke batteries, if my terminology is correct? Where they have those old beehive ovens. That'd be cool just to model one up in 3D and print one out and see how it comes out. These are small. I gotta learn to fat fingers out of the way. All right, so simple stuff. This is the beauty of these little pieces. I'm gonna leave that tank. All right, so I may have shot myself in the foot here, because ideally I don't have a female-to-female connection, and that's really what this needs. So you can see I've got them lined up. So I've got this vertical is about 1/8 of an inch lower than this fitting here, and so I've got two female-to-females. I didn't think of this far ahead with this, so this one won't happen tonight, but the connection's there. This will get a female once I print that out. So, and then this line for the buffer tank, I'll take, and I'll probably need to look at some diagrams and find out if it goes back inside. I think this is the one that goes to the pump, and And so this one will drop underneath both of these and come out this side. Like so. And that one will hit the pump that I believe is a recirc pump. And then from that pump, we'll go back inside the building. So that takes care of the pneumatic pump piece. And then when I go to paint this, I don't have my post-it notes out, but I'll slide a post-it note underneath that, hit it with the airbrush, and we're good to go. So here's the great thing also, these are still flexible, and the beauty of styrene and 3D printed parts. So on to this side. All right, so this one, gotta get my props situated here, it's in place, go flat anymore. All right. All right, so this one needed to add just a small extension sleeve. That lines up with the pad on this arm. And then we're gonna adjust this so that it's up just a little bit better. I want it right underneath that top row lock on the parapet. Gives me a good place to drag weathering from. And I got this piece. Got this one short. So this one runs in the center rack. All right, so that one's good. So we're gonna go ahead and put this one down. Find out. And again, I can mask around these, tape them off, hit them with paint. Beehives are 50. How long did they use those, Bart, man? I just don't know. I just think they're cool. They used those until 1800s. I suppose some would have, but I imagine by the late 1800s, most. Trying to think and line at the same time. So I would think that most of those were pretty outdated by the late 1800s as you start rolling into the early 1900s even. Alright, so just a quick check. Vertical with our masonry. We know that we're going to line up on top here. Alright, I'm going to let that one sit. Notice I bounce between stuff because I like to let that super glue sit. I don't use an activator. Probably should grab some, but I just don't like spraying it all over my model that parts are already finished. So let's go back to the steam loop. So I'm not even going to try and clean this one up. Looks like I have a little bit of a misalignment, but I'm not worried about it. So in a perfect world, again, I don't want to glue this one down. And this is part of thinking through this process of how I'm going to paint things, because the steam loop is going to be an aluminum color. So you can see it's going to sit. My little bit of forethought and planning was that it rides right in between these two. Those are the support brackets. That's what kind of prompted the placement of these. It just so happened to work out that, I had one in the center, but then these were predicated based on how wide this was. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to, this one doesn't have to be, I had two pieces. because then these will extend off both sides. What I find, Barry, you'll run into this. When you're gluing the pieces together, it's always best to glue to the inside of the female end and then slide the male into it. It helps avoid the glue splurge. And then I'll take it, and once I set it here, oh, I don't want to do that. That side's not clean. Not thinking. This is the clean side. Hey, mistakes, real life. Happens to everybody. Alright. Before I set it, I just swirl it, and does it hold for a second? Actually, it's one of your glue. But yeah, so if I did early, so if I modeled a beehive, there are some early 1900s modelers that would benefit from that. I do a lot of masonry modeling, which is why I was curious. But I'm just not sure how many people model that era of steel mills. Yeah, this is when I wish I had activator, because then I could just glue it, I just hit it. This one's not setting up. Set it here and leave it alone. Other side, do the same thing, leave it alone. I gotta clean this one up. I use a half rounded file. This is 1/4 inch styrene tubing. You can use a round file as well, just to deburr the inside or the outside. That up, make it pretty. Test fit. Now it's setting up on me. I'm going to use the alignment things. What those grid lines are for on your, hitting my camera, sorry guys. On your cutting mats, line stuff up. So did I get, none of my chemical industry guys jumped on tonight. All the steel mill guys did. So I just need to get, I need to get my steel mill started. So I love chatting with Kevin. I really do. He's fun to chit and banter with, and we jump on Discord sometimes when we're modeling, and I'm learning a lot from Kevin. But I'll assume you guys are still hanging out tonight because the audio's fine, the video's fine, there's no lag in the screen, and I run Google Fiber, and I have a gig feed, so I've been pretty convinced that the streaming issues have not been on my end, but I just can't nail down what we're struggling with on Kevin's side to help him resolve that piece for when we go live. I'm working on it. I've a lot of reading on it, but maybe I just need to start my steel mills, and I'll use his stuff. Like I said, I believe in helping people out. And, if he's now, his blast furnace won't be what I need for Colorado Fuel and Iron, but a lot of his other stuff I can use, like the pumps and stuff, you know, and I'm happy to support him, and he's doing the same for me. He's bought some things from me, and you know, I guess you could just give each other stuff, but I was like, no, I'll buy from you, you buy from me, and that way we're just continuing to support what each other's doing and do it that way. So it keeps it, in my opinion, honest. You're not going to see me promoting. Let me rephrase this. I'm not going to be plastering a bunch of people's logos all over my live stream and my videos. That's just not me. I don't like to be beholden to people. I mean, I guess if somebody wants to send me something for free, that's great, but I've tried the sponsorship route, and it's just not for me, because I find other things work a little bit better than all the sponsored stuff. But in cases of guys like Kevin, he does great work. I think the other guy is Scott. I've never met Scott. So, all right. So we're getting closer. Steam line. In theory, it's not quite set. I just need to quit jacking with this and let it set. I'm trying to be. I want things to go faster, but they're just not. This, and I need to come back and clean all this up anyway. So we're gonna leave that alone, which is fine. All right, so my cross piece across the top. It's right there. Again, remember, none of these are fixed, and they won't get fixed for a while. This is just for alignment. And so what you'll see is in the water line. Water line's going to sit right here. And then it's a little bit easier to see right there. And then there's a fuel line that's going to sit right there. Now, what I'll do is I've got this connection here on this side done, and it's ready to go, but I don't want to make the top connection yet. I want to leave everything open again because I haven't finished the roof piece. But you can see I've made that connection. I've got that bracket in there, and we're close. So this is where I can look at the alignment of things to make sure I'm not too far out. What I've noticed is that I didn't quite get this bracket completely square with everything else. And so I'm going to have to cheat and pull it back. And this was that flexibility I was talking about. So once I pull it back, then I will clamp and glue one of the larger pipes in place before I set the steam line. Because this line here, I don't know where this runs yet, but this will take off somewhere and make an elbow to the refinery. That's the series ferry that I think you ordered, was the version 1, version 2 sets. And that's these guys here. Let me see if I can grab a handful, and all that stuff. So they're all printed and sitting in your box, ready to go for waiting on this silly kit. But these are 1/4 inch. All these 1/4 inch pipes. I've got male to female, and they'll slide together. These are a little bit tight. This is the first round set, but then they'll slide together real tight like that. And then I've got Ys that are in that kit. I think I have T's. I got male and female T's that are in that kit, so that you can do all kinds of different piping scenarios that way. And then 45s. I got male both sides, and then male female 45s. That's how I did. You know what? Let me grab that. That's how I did my. That's how these are done. These are the unheading valves. Now, I don't model any different depending on what I'm working on. Everything's a kit of parts. I can pull things apart, paint it. So these are all done. So I just need to clamp the pipe flange fittings, glue those together. But these sit in the coke tower, and these are all these fittings, and you can do great stuff with all your pipe runs. And that was really the goal: was how can I put a kit of 30 and 40 pieces together that makes sense for $20-25 that allows you to run all these piping, and then I'm a scratch builder, so everything's styrene telescope. This slides right down on top. It's your unheading valve, and then this takes off and goes to, actually this will connect to this expansion tank. It goes underneath drops underneath. You can let me switch screens real quick. You'll see how they'd set up. But that's the unheading valves sitting underneath the coke towers, and then those head out to the rack, and then that way they'll tie into the expansion tank. There's an expansion tank for each pair. So, but this is what I've been working on. Is these are all these fitting pieces, and then the next piece coming out are all these sleeves. And I've got, I don't even know how many I have. I've been working on these for all these different pipe sizes, but bolted sleeves. And again, I do them different than Kevin does it. Kevin has a bunch of these as well, and Kevin's are nice too. I mean, I've seen them, but I do them so that you can basically, you pull them off, and here's a perfect example. On the bottom, you can see. Let me focus here. See those little zits on the bottom? Those are the supports. You take this, put it on sandpaper, wet dry sandpaper, swirl, get it flat. 2 of them back to back if you want pipes, the bolted fittings on both sides. What this does, it allows me to get perfect bolts. I don't get these deformed bolts like a lot of people are getting. I don't have to have supports all over the model that you have to clean up, because once you sand off that bottom ring, you're done. You just glue, and then the great thing is, I don't want to pick that one up because I'll screw that up with that steam loop, is these slide right on top of the 1/4 inch tube, like that, back to back. You glue them together, and now you've got a fitting. I've been going crazy with these things because I've been looking for all kinds of different ways to get creative with them. Here's an expansion valve. So I mean, this is just a mock-up, but this is to fit 1/4 inch tubing, and then ideally this will have a hole on this side so I can slide that tubing back in and do a back-to-back. You can see the bolts on those. That's just the level I'm trying to get to, but I'm approaching it from a master builder craftsman mindset. I want it to be easy, but I also want it to be challenging. I think that it's okay for us to be challenged when we're building our models. There's nothing wrong with that. And so that's what I've been doing. So they'll come in packs of 6. These are all mock-ups. I'll use them in my models because you won't see half of them. I have a million of these pipe flanges, but either sets of 6 or 12 for like $5 probably. I just need to calculate. It's calculated based on how much resin goes in it and how long it takes to print. So these short ones I can get done in an hour, which keeps my costs down. It's these taller models. Let me see if I can grab this one. Here's the first mock-up on the direct fired heater base. These just take a while to print, and I think these are just a big model. I mean, obviously this is HO scale, but it's a big model, and I think the direct fired heater base alone is going to run around $50, but nobody has it. I mean, this is truly a custom, and I've got the photos and everything that this was based off. It's a real direct fired heater, so it's something that for guys that are into the refinery side of things, they appreciate. I hope they do. Excuse me. Right now that one's my paintbrush holder. I'll put these away. I really want this steam line to set up. Here we go. Alright. So then this, goodness, set it in here. That last slot like that. And I'll develop a custom post. I'll develop a custom post to support that outside edge. If I see there's kind of a prototype for it. I've seen a lot of these at about this scale, but there's no support out there. But then I'll also need to go back, and Kevin was getting ready to start in our last live stream about how he scores and does the seams for his piping. I was gonna go through that with a different tutorial. I'll just use this as the mock-up for that. So let me jump into this other tank. This is a separation tank. These are applicable to a lot of industries. This isn't just a refinery thing. I know this is a promo night, but I make all these things because I think that they're applicable for people in trying to accomplish stuff with PVC. And let's see if I got a package. Don't have those here. Okay, but what they are is it's basically a saddle that sits on top of 3/4 inch PVC that is now going to allow me, let me find a finished one. So these have all been sanded. And there's a lip around the base. This is hard. I've stopped modeling in the carbon black. It's a great resin, but it doesn't work well for photographing or video of anything. And then these will sit on top. So we're gonna set these on here. But the first thing we want to do is we're gonna use a 45 or a 90-degree female, and then we're gonna set that in there like so. So I'm gonna grab just a little bit of glue. This one's not too critical. I go from the bottom side. A whole lot. Just enough to set it. Then we're going to go right down on top of this. So, flush. And I know that these go out one direction. So these are made to sit right on top. It's just the male counter to that, and so that will slide down on top. And I'll go through that when I start getting the Coke towers a little bit more further along than they are right now. And so these 4 pipes will all come off and feed they're actually a feed to and from the Coke tower and in and out. So let me jump in chat real quick. All right, now the steel mill. Oh, Bartman, I didn't know that. I thought that the Coke processing was like always something the steel mill guys did. Steel mills did. You're saying that's not the case. The Coke processing is in and of itself a standalone industry. That makes sense. That would be why Don was asking me if I was going to get into doing the Coke stuff for the steel mill guys when he saw us working on the pet Coke for the refinery. Because he was getting all excited about that piece when I started working on that, because yeah, it's a big model. It's already at a foot and a half. I don't know. I mean, I don't have my tape measure. Well, here, where's my scale at? You know, this is a foot. So 1'4", and I haven't even started the superstructure that will take it up to probably 2 feet for the drilling deck. I've got another deck that needs to get added up above this yet. So, yeah, so Scott is the guy. Scott and Kevin must be the two over on the steel mill modeling page that are doing the bulk of those custom models and stuff. So, variations between furnaces. Yeah, Townie, if you're still here, I get that each cast floor is different. What I'm wondering is there a standard for? Okay, I'm gonna mess this up, so don't laugh. There's pig iron, and then there's two lines that come out of the tap hole. I think that's the correct terminology. When they tap the furnace, it comes out, but then they divert into two different lines. One goes into a coke car, and then one gets cast into pig iron. I think that's what I'm wondering, is if there's a standard floor plan for a run-of-the-mill steel mill and blast furnace, because I'm trying the Colorado Fuel and Iron piece, and maybe I just need to run what I ought to do is, you know what, you guys, if you can actually leave me your email address, here's what I can do. This might actually be kind of cool. I can invite you guys over to Discord, and it's an audio voice channel. I don't know if you guys are familiar with Discord or not, but it would be easier to just jump in and chat that kind of stuff for 30 minutes or an hour and model that way, because I think I can have 100 people on my Discord channel without it being a hurdle, because I don't think that affects my end with the feed that I have. If you guys want to do that, I'm trying to make sure that when I start plowing down the steel mill side for Colorado Fuel and Iron, that I'm knocking out some other things that maybe Kevin's not doing or Scott's not doing, related to some of these smaller, older mills. So that would be kind of cool. Iron Runner slag, that's it. I knew you guys would correct me. That's awesome. But it does get diverted. It comes down one main chute, but then they divert it. See, I have no idea. That to me is, I understand it, but I don't understand how they actually divert it. So what I need to do is, I guess I could just take the Walters floor plan and go off of that to start with, because I could actually, quick eye on my 3D printer, I could actually print the cast floors on the FDM printer, like I do the Coke Tower. So that would be kind of cool. Maybe just to use the Walters, because I'm guessing Walters is just a run-of-the-mill, as generic as it can get option. So I'm gonna pull these off here real quick. Hey Seth, how you doing, buddy? Got my nephew jumped in with Beta Landscaping. He's out in Georgia. Hey Seth, did you ever do anything with all that modeling stuff I sent you? Or is it still sitting in a box? I guess the other option is I could leave the steam line hanging like that. Might be a better. I'll make that call once I get this set on the layout and see what's going to be going around it. I'm kind of liking it just hanging. Should probably do a little research and make sure it can hang next to a building like that. All right, cool. Yeah, you drop your emails in there. I'll pull them from the chat once I'm done here. I'm about wrapped up for tonight. Been a long day for me, guys. Okay. That's that one done. That one. Yeah, that's where I was getting. I will say one thing. The industrial whirlybirds. I think Barry, you saw that I pulled these out. This is the crude version. I actually just printed off all the finals and all of the segmenting that you kind of see there in this mock-up. That's all gone. And so you see it's got bolts up on top, and those are pretty thin blades. The final is just even a touch thinner. These are for all industrial models. I'm going to drop that on here. This is part of my retrofit. So it'll be a rusted out old vent that was converted to, stack that was converted to a whirlybird for this particular pump house. So But that's all I got for tonight, guys. I'm not going to make the rest of these connections. Just wanted to get a couple of these simple ones, go through that pneumatic buffer tank, and then go through the expansion tank real quick. For those that want to be part of this kit will get wrapped up here this week for a couple of photo shots that I'll put out with things as soon as I get that from Woodland Scenics. So you guys got any questions, drop them in chat. I'll hang out here for just a couple more minutes. I certainly appreciate you guys jumping in with me tonight. I will get to steel mill stuff, I promise. I'm happy to work on some custom content if you guys got anything that you know others aren't doing that might be beneficial. I try and keep my costs down on my stuff as much as I can. Like I said, literally, it's just a matter of calculating the resin cost and time on the printer. I'm trying to get things to where I can keep them very economical and less than what you can get from the other larger manufacturers. I'm not trying to get rich on this deal. I'm just trying to do some cool, fun stuff. So yeah, Barry, I'll say this: I get kind of excited when a model works out great with minimal tweaks, and this was one of them. I was like, that came out amazing. So I went ahead and fine-tuned it, and they look really good. And I think for large industries, they're going to be a great little roof detail as part of the roof details package I'm putting together. So, well, I don't see any more, no more questions, guys. Hey, listen, I greatly appreciate you jumping on with me tonight, hanging out for over an hour, just chatting away, rolling through some of this 3D printed content and how I use it with the chemical industry modelers, and I'll get into the steel modeling stuff too. So. Do me a favor, share the page to others that might be interested in the 3D printed content and how it's helping with some of our modeling aspects. I'll try and get to the end scale stuff for those guys, Townie, that you're in that. I get it. It's going to take me a little bit more time to fine tune some things because I only want to put out some great stuff and have modelers really enjoy working with it. So hit the like button for me if you guys wouldn't mind. And again, greatly appreciate it.